G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And over the years here on Kiwi Car Life, I've had the pleasure of driving basically every worthwhile Honda. All of the Civic Type Rs, all the Integra Type Rs, the Prelude, the S2000, the NSX, the Legend and the S660. And the one defining feature that unites all of those cars is VTEC. Back in the late 1980s, Honda wanted to create two engines in one. A screaming, very high output 4-cylinder engine to rival what the other Japanese manufacturers were putting out at the time, but also something that would still get acceptable fuel economy. However, they had a problem. If you want to make a lot of power from a small little 1.6 litre 4-cylinder engine, you need a big cam lobe to let lots of air and fuel into the engine at high revs. But that's no good for fuel economy because at low revs, you'll have no torque and it'll be dumping way more fuel and air in than it needs to. So Honda came up with the genius VTEC system. At low revs, it runs off a small cam lobe, giving good fuel efficiency, but not all that much power. But to get those incredible power per litre figures that the VTEC engines of the 90s and 2000s could achieve, it of course has a larger cam lobe that around 5,500, 6,000 RPM it switches over onto to then let in all the air and fuel and make lots of power. And as an added bonus, it makes a fantastic noise in the process. When researching this video, I was actually led astray a little bit because I had in my mind that the Honda NSX was the first car to launch with VTEC, but actually they were developing that 3-litre V6 back in the late 80s without VTEC, but on the side another team was also developing this B16 with VTEC, and when they went to launch the NSX without VTEC and the Integra with VTEC, the CEO of Honda realised that their flagship supercar couldn't come without this new technology. So they completely redesigned the C30A engine to include VTEC, and around the same time, although this one was first, the C30A and the NSX, and this, the B16A, launched with the legendary VTEC system. Both engines rev to over 8,000 RPM, but where the NSX made 270 horsepower, this made 170 horsepower because, of course, this is only a little 1.6. And torque, because it is only a 1.6, is a pitiful 150 Newton meters of torque, coming in at a screaming 6,500 RPM. And it's paired up with a 5-speed manual transmission, just the way it should be. If you had one of these cars back in the early 1990s, you would have been absolutely bawling, man. I still remember my dad's generation talking about how cool these DA Integras were. Not only did they have the legendary VTEC engine, but they looked pretty cool on the outside. And then you come inside, look at this, you have a little panel to cover up all of your manual select climate control functions over here. You have an electronic display to show your temperature. The gauges look very similar to what you found in the NSX from the time period. And all of these little wraparound buttons here underneath the cluster just look fantastic. The transmission feels brilliant as always. And when you look at the door cards, the way this handle here and the window switches are designed, it feels like a fighter cockpit in here. You've got a sunroof, sports bucket seats from the 1990s and velour carpets all over the rest of this car. This would have been an epically cool car in the 1990s. But now it's time to take the first VTEC car for a drive and see what it's like. Driving the Honda Integra DA, the first car to come with VTEC. And speaking of, let's hit some of that VTEC. We are back in business, boys, in a VTEC Honda. Might only be a 5-speed, but the ratios are absolutely perfect. You can use second, you can use third, and you can wind them right out without really breaking the speed limit. It's fantastic. This was what driving was about back in the 1990s. A screaming 4-cylinder engine that you would keep at the highest revs possible to get as much power out of it as you possibly could, with like an 1100 kg curb weight and a 5-speed manual transmission. This is a glorious power plant, and with double wishbone suspension all around, man. This thing just handles beautifully. They just have an amazing way that they drive. It's remarkable. Unfortunately, as I was getting lost in the 1990s, I'm now stuck behind a 2025 problem. A Tesla Model Y, the ugliest car known to man. We have disposed of the Tesla. Oh, you just can't beat it, man. Earlier today, I was driving a Trueno BZR. One thing I did really like about that was that, surprisingly, for a 90s car, it actually had really quite fast steering. But as you can see with this, oh, the steering is so slow, and because the tires are so thick, it needs to load up the tire, have it sort of stretch and bend before it actually starts turning in. So this car, obviously, you know, it's nearly 10 years earlier, but this feels like an old car to drive, just with a really fantastic engine. But that's not to say that it's no good. The steering feel is still great, it's just very slow steering, so you have to apply so much input to get through some of these corners. But man, when you get this thing screaming, it is a masterpiece to drive. And man, when you get this thing screaming through a few corners, even though I don't think it's got an LSD, and it's on far from amazing tires, it really does just eat up roads like this so well. Old cars, while they do have their downsides, lack of features, lack of comfort, and of course, 6 monthly WAFs, potential rust problems, worn out bushings and the like. If you get a nice one like this, man alive, that is something special. And to think you could buy one of these in 1989. Cell phones, not a thing. Computers, not a thing. The internet, not a thing. And yet this was. And even today, it has stood the test of time and is still one of the most utterly, stupendously amazing cars to drive. This is what I mean when I say modern cars will be forgotten in 10 years' time, because they don't have a heart, they don't have a soul. They don't sing to you when you put your foot down anymore. They just go. This, all things considered, is a 160 horsepower Honda. It's not particularly quick, but it is light, it is unbelievably fun, it talks to you, and you want to wind that engine out. You're chasing the red line, braking as late as possible, just so that you can hear as much of that VTEC as you possibly can. Oh, for manufacturers to make cars like this again. But oh no, I need my Apple CarPlay here on the screen in the middle. I need my active safety features in case I veer off the road or forget to brake when somebody stops in front of me. I need my seats to massage me and heat up when it's a bit cold outside. Sure, $80,000 and 2 tons later, there's your car. This was from a time when none of that mattered. The only thing that mattered was the drive. And this just does it faultlessly well. The sound, the power that you can use, all of it, all the time, the fantastic feeling transmission that is a joy to row through, gear after gear, the lightweight handling and fantastic steering feel that you can just chuck it into a corner and have the car do exactly what you ask and crack into VTEC on the exit, undulating over the dips and mounds, soaking up all the bumps beautifully with double wishbone suspension. This is what driving is about, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I will look forward to seeing you again next time.